Jai Yun's hands shook as she carried the morning tea into her master's study. The cup made tiny clicking sounds against the saucer. She knew any spilled drop would mean punishment. The marble floors of the mansion felt cold under her bare feet, a daily reminder of her place as a slave. Her master, Du-han, sat at his large desk made of dark wood. He looked like any other Korean man, but Jai Yun knew better. His perfect features and the way his skin seemed to shine in certain lights gave away his alien nature. He didn't look up as she placed the cup on his desk. "You're 3 minutes late," Du-han said. His voice was smooth like honey, but it held no warmth. "Tell me why I shouldn't punish you for this failure." Jai Yun kept her eyes on the floor. "This servant apologizes, master. The water took longer to reach the right temperature today." She held her breath, waiting for his response. Du-han picked up the cup and took a small sip. His face showed no emotion. "The temperature is perfect," he said. "That's the only reason you won't be punished today." He waved his hand, dismissing her. As Jai Yun walked to the kitchen, she passed several other servants. They all wore the same gray clothes and kept their eyes down. Some had been here longer than her 5 years of service. Others were newer, still learning the harsh rules of the house. In the kitchen, her friend Sung-min was cleaning dishes. He gave her a quick, secret smile. Sung-min had helped her survive her first days as a slave, teaching her the rules that kept them safe from Du-han's anger. How was he today? Sung-min whispered as Jai Yun picked up a cloth to help with the dishes. "The usual," she answered quietly. "Cold and scary, but not angry." They both knew an angry Du-han meant pain for everyone in the household. Through the kitchen window, Jai Yun could see the tall walls that surrounded the mansion. Beyond them lay Seoul, a city she hadn't seen in 5 years. Sometimes at night, she would remember walking those streets as a free person. But those memories felt like dreams now. The kitchen door opened, and Harin, the head servant, walked in. Her face was pale. "The master wants everything perfect for tonight," she said. "He's having important guests. If anything goes wrong..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Jai Yun and Sung-min worked faster. They knew what happened during Du-han's special dinners. The alien overlords would gather, wearing their human faces, and talk about their plans while the servants worked in silent fear. As Jai Yun polished the silver dinner plates, she caught her reflection. Her face looked tired, and her black hair was pulled back in a tight, plain style that all servants had to wear. She remembered how she used to wear it loose and decorated with pretty clips back when she was free. The day passed in a blur of cleaning, preparing, and serving. Every servant moved like a well-oiled machine, knowing that even small mistakes could have terrible consequences. They had all seen what happened to those who failed Du-han. That night, as Jai Yun lay on her thin mattress in the servants' quarters, she heard strange sounds from outside. Sung-min, who slept near the window, looked out carefully. "There are lights in the distance," he whispered. "And I think I heard explosions." Jai Yun closed her eyes, trying not to hope. Hope was dangerous in Du-han's house, but she couldn't help wondering if something was about to change. The last thing she thought before falling asleep was of the Seoul she once knew and how the city lights used to shine like stars. The explosions grew louder. Jai Yun woke up to screaming and the sound of breaking glass. Red lights flashed outside the windows of the servants' quarters. The air smelled of smoke. "Everyone up!" Harin shouted, running through the dark room. "The compound is under attack." Jai Yun jumped from her bed, her heart beating fast. Around her, other servants rushed to get dressed. Some were crying. Others stood frozen in fear. Sung-min grabbed her arm. "We need to find Master Du-han," he said. "He'll protect us." But his voice shook with doubt. They ran through the dark hallways of the mansion. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. More explosions shook the building, and pieces of the ceiling fell around them. Jai Yun heard the sound of gunfire getting closer. When they reached Du-han's private quarters, they found him throwing things into a small silver box. His perfect face showed anger, but not fear. Several other alien overlords were with him, all looking exactly like humans except for the strange glow of their skin. "Master," Herin called out, "what should we do?" Dohan didn't even look at them. "The rebels are coming," he said coldly. "They'd found a way past our defenses." He pressed a button on the silver box, and it started to hum. "Please, Master," Jayan stepped forward, breaking all the rules about speaking to him. "Take us with you. We've served you faithfully." For a moment, Duhan's eyes met hers. There was nothing in them. No kindness, no care, not even anger. Just emptiness. "You are nothing but tools," he said. "And tools can be replaced." A bright light filled the room. When Jayan could see again, Duhan and the other alien overlords were gone. They had teleported away, leaving their servants behind to face the rebels. "He left us," Sung Min whispered. "He just left us." The sound of fighting was very close now. Everyone knew what the rebels did to people who worked for the alien overlords. They thought all servants were traitors who chose to help the aliens. "We need to hide," Herin said, trying to stay strong. "Everyone, go to the basement. Now." They ran down the dark stairs to the basement. Jayan could hear people breaking into the mansion above them. The servants huddled together in the dark, trying to stay quiet. Some of the younger ones cried softly. "I can't believe he abandoned us," an old servant named Taiwan said. "I served him for 15 years. 15 years of perfect loyalty." Jayan felt strange. The fear was still there, but something else was growing in her chest. Anger. For the first time, she let herself feel angry at Duhan, at how he had treated them, at how easily he had left them to die. The basement door burst open. Bright lights shone down the stairs. Heavy boots came down, step by step. "Please," Herin called out, standing in front of the other servants. "We're unarmed. We were slaves. Please don't hurt us." The lights moved closer. Jayan held her breath. She could see the shadows of people with guns. This was it. After everything, all the years of service, all the fear, all the pain, this was how it would end. Then a voice spoke. It was different from Duhan's cold, perfect voice. It was warm, human, and kind. "No one's going to hurt you," the voice said. "My name is Hyunwoo. We're here to help." Jayan looked up into the light, and for the first time in 5 years, she felt something new. Hope. The bright lights from the rebels' flashlights made Jayan squint. As her eyes adjusted, she saw a tall man standing on the basement stairs. This was Hyunwoo, the owner of the kind voice. He wore simple black clothes and carried a gun, but it pointed at the ground, not at them. "The building is secure," another rebel called down. "No sign of the Overlord or his inner circle." Hyunwoo nodded and turned back to the servants. "They teleported away, didn't they?" His voice held no surprise, only sadness. "They always abandon their servants when there's danger." Herin stepped forward, still protecting the others. "What will happen to us?" she asked. Her voice was steady, even though her hands shook. "You're free now," Hyunwoo said. He took off his tactical vest and set down his gun to appear less threatening. "But we need to move quickly. This place isn't safe." A female rebel with short hair rushed down the stairs. "Hyunwoo, we need to go. Other patrols report alien forces moving in this direction." She looked at the servants with distrust. "We can't take them with us. They'll slow us down." "We're taking them." "Nayoung," Hyunwoo said firmly. "I won't leave them to die." Jayan watched this exchange with confusion. These rebels were nothing like the cruel monsters Duhan had described. At least, Hyunwoo wasn't. "Everyone who wants to come with us, follow me," Hyunwoo said. "We have transport vehicles waiting. Grab only what you can carry quickly." The servants looked at each other uncertainly. Then Sung Min stood up. "I'll go with them," he said. Others began to stand as well. Jayan felt frozen. "Leave? just like that. After 5 years of strict rules and punishment, the idea of walking away seemed impossible. Hyunwoo noticed her hesitation. He walked over and knelt beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "What's your name?" he asked. "Jae-yun," she whispered, looking at the floor out of habit. "Jae-yun," he said her name gently. "You don't have to look down anymore. You're not a slave now. You're a person, and you have a choice." She raised her eyes slowly, meeting his gaze. His eyes were kind, but they held a strength that was different from Du-han's cold power. This was the strength of someone who chose to be good. "I've never had a choice before," Jae-yun said. "That makes this one even more important," Hyunwoo replied with a small smile. "What do you choose?" Before she could answer, the building shook with a massive explosion. Dust fell from the ceiling. "Alien reinforcements," someone shouted from upstairs. "They're trying to take back the compound." "Time to choose quickly," Hyunwoo said, standing and offering his hand to Jae-yun. She looked at his offered hand. For 5 years, no one had offered her a choice. No one had treated her like a person who could make decisions. Du-han had taken everything from her freedom, her dignity, her humanity. Jae-yun took Hyunwoo's hand and stood up. They ran up the stairs together, following the other servants and rebels. Outside, the night sky was filled with strange lights and the sound of fighting. Large rebel vehicles waited in the compound's courtyard. As Jae-yun climbed into one of the vehicles with some men and the others, she looked back at the mansion. The place that had been her prison for 5 years was burning. In the flames, she thought she saw all her fears in chains burning too. The vehicle started moving. Jae-yun didn't know where they were going, but for the first time in years, she was choosing her own path. The rebel base was hidden underground in an old subway station. Jae-yun sat on a simple bed, one of many in the large room that used to be a platform. Around her, other former servants were settling in, but everyone looked lost. A week had passed since their rescue. Jae-yun still woke up early every morning, expecting to serve tea. Her hands would shake until she remembered that Du-han wasn't here. She was free, but freedom felt strange and frightening. Hyunwoo visited them every day, bringing food and supplies. Today, he carried a box of clothes. "These are normal clothes," he said, setting down the box. "Not servant uniforms. You can choose what you want to wear." Jae-yun stared at the clothes. Choose what to wear. The idea made her stomach tight with fear. For 5 years, she had worn only what she was told to wear. "It's okay to be scared," Hyunwoo said, noticing her fear. "I understand. I was a servant once too." This made Jae-yun look up in surprise. "You were?" Hyunwoo sat down on a nearby chair. "Yes. For 3 years, I served an alien overlord named Yuri. She looked just like us, but she was cold and cruel, like your former master." "How did you escape?" Jae-yun asked. Other former servants moved closer to listen. "The resistance rescued me, just like we rescued you," Hyunwoo said. "But the hardest part wasn't escaping. It was learning to be free again, learning to make my own choices." Jae-yun touched a soft blue shirt in the box. "I keep waiting for punishment," she admitted quietly. "Every time I do something without being ordered to." "The aliens taught us to fear freedom," Hyunwoo said. "They made us believe we needed their orders to live. But that was a lie. Humans aren't meant to be slaves. We're meant to be free." Later that day, Jae-yun put on the blue shirt she had touched. Her hands shook as she did it, but she didn't ask anyone's permission. When she looked in a mirror, she barely recognized herself. Some men found her looking at her reflection. "You look different," he said. "More like you." "I don't remember who I was before," Jae-yun said. "Then you can decide who you want to be now." Some men replied with a small smile. That evening, Hyunwoo brought them news about the war against the aliens. As he talked, Jae-yun noticed things about him she hadn't seen before. The way he listened to everyone who spoke, how he remembered everyone's names. the respect in his voice when he talked to them. "We need your help," he said finally. "You know things about the aliens that could help us fight them. But I won't order you to help. It's your choice." Jia-yun thought about Du-han's cold orders and empty eyes. Then she thought about Hyun-woo's kindness and the freedom he had given them. She stood up. "I want to help," she said, her voice growing stronger. "I want to fight back." One by one, other former servants stood up too. They were scared, but they were choosing to be brave. Together. That night, Jia-yun slept without nightmares for the first time since her rescue. She dreamed of a free soul, where no one had to serve alien masters. When she woke up, she didn't shake with fear. Instead, she felt something new growing inside her. Strength. The resistance fighters needed information about Du-han's mansion. Jia-yun walked through the underground tunnels with Hyun-woo and Na-young, heading to a room full of computers. The rebels had copied all the files from the mansion before leaving. "Can you help us understand these documents?" Na-young asked Jia-yun. Her voice was friendlier now. After a month of working together, she had started to trust the former servants. Jia-yun sat at the computer. She had often seen Du-han working at screens like this one. "He never thought we were smart enough to understand what we saw," she said quietly. "So he didn't hide things from us." She started looking through the files. Many were in the alien language, but Jia-yun recognized patterns. 5 years of serving tea and cleaning had taught her more than Du-han knew. "This symbol means harvest," she said, pointing to a strange mark. "I saw it on papers he read during special meetings." Hyun-woo leaned closer to look. "Can you read more?" Jia-yun moved through more files. Then she stopped. Her hands began to shake, but not from fear this time. From anger. "What is it?" Na-young asked, noticing Jia-yun's reaction. "These are plans," Jia-yun said, her voice trembling. Du-han and the other overlords, they were planning something terrible. They call it the Great Harvest. She opened more files, understanding more with each one she read. The aliens had been preparing for this for years. That's why they had taken human form. That's why they had enslaved people. "They're going to kill everyone in Korea," Jia-yun whispered. "Not just the rebels. Everyone. They need human life force to power their ships. They've done this on other worlds before." The room went silent. Hyun-woo's face grew pale. "When?" he asked. Jia-yun checked the dates in the files. 3 months from now, during the autumn festival. When everyone is celebrating, they will start their harvest. Na-young cursed quietly. How many people would die? All of them. Millions. Jia-yun's voice broke. The servants would die too. We were never meant to survive. Du-han knew this all along. Hyun-woo put his hand on Jia-yun's shoulder. "This is why he left so easily," he said gently. "He never planned to keep any promises to you." Jia-yun thought about all the years she had served Du-han faithfully. All the time she had been afraid of disappointing him. All for nothing. He had always planned to kill them all. "There's more," she said, opening another file. "This shows their weak points. Places where their technology doesn't work well. Things they're afraid of." She looked up at Hyun-woo. "They fear humans coming together. They fear us being strong. That's why they keep us separate and scared." Na-young started taking notes quickly. "This could help us fight them," she said. "This could save everyone." Jia-yun kept reading, her anger turning into determination. She had spent years being afraid of Du-han. Now she would help destroy everything he had planned. "We need to warn people," Hyun-woo said. "We need to get this information to all the resistance groups." "I'll help," Jia-yun said firmly. "I know these files better than anyone. I can help save Korea." For the first time, Jia-yun felt truly useful. Not as a servant, but as a fighter. She would make Du-han regret teaching her to be invisible. She would make him regret thinking humans were weak. The harvest was coming. But this time, the humans would be ready. 2 months had passed since Jia-yun discovered the truth about the harvest. The underground base was now full of activity as the resistance prepared for war. Jia-yun walked through the tunnels with confidence, no longer afraid of making choices. Today, she led a meeting with resistance leaders from across Korea. The old subway platform had become a command center, filled with maps and computers. 20 people sat around a large table, listening to her speak. "The aliens have defense systems here, and here," Jia-yun said, pointing to locations on a digital map. "But they can't work in heavy rain. That's why Duhan always got angry during the monsoon season. Their technology fails when there's too much water." Hyunwoo stood beside her, watching with pride as she shared her knowledge. The other resistance leaders took notes and asked questions. No one treated her like a servant anymore. "Their communications also break down near certain mountains," Jia-yun continued. "They avoid these areas. We can use these places to hide our forces." After the meeting, Sung-min found her in the hallway. He looked different now too, standing straight and tall. "Remember when we used to be scared to speak above a whisper?" he asked with a small smile. "That feels like another life," Jia-yun replied. She touched the resistance badge on her jacket. She had earned it by training other former servants to fight back. Later that day, Jia-yun worked with Ma-young to plan attack strategies. The two women had become close friends, their early distrust forgotten. They knew they needed to work together to save Korea. "The autumn festival is in 1 month," Ma-young said, checking their timeline. "Will we be ready?" "We have to be," Jia-yun answered. She looked at the photos of alien bases they had collected. "Duhan taught me everything about their routines without knowing it. Now that knowledge will help destroy them." That evening, Hyunwoo found Jia-yun practicing with a resistance weapon. The training room was full of former servants learning to fight. They weren't awkward or afraid anymore. They moved with purpose. "You've changed," Hyunwoo said, watching her hit target after target. "I had to," Jia-yun replied, lowering her weapon. "We all did. The aliens thought making us servants would make us weak, but it made us strong. We learned all their secrets." Hyunwoo nodded. "You've helped unite the resistance. People listen to you now. They trust you." Jia-yun thought about how far she had come from being the scared servant who carried tea with shaking hands. "I trust myself now," she said. "That's what makes the difference." That night, Jia-yun couldn't sleep. She went to the command center and looked at the battle plans they had made. Soon, they would face Duhan and his army. The thought didn't frighten her anymore. She touched the computer screen, tracing the map of Seoul. Somewhere out there, Duhan was preparing for his harvest. He thought humans were weak. He thought they would be easy to kill. But Jia-yun knew better now. Humans weren't weak. They were strong when they stood together. And soon, very soon, the aliens would learn this truth. The autumn festival was 3 days away when the alarm sounded throughout the resistance base. Jia-yun rushed to the command center, her heart beating fast. The screen showed multiple alien ships appearing over Seoul. "They're early," Ma-young said, checking the radar systems. "Duhan is leading them. His ship is the largest one." Hyunwoo gathered the resistance leaders quickly. "They must have discovered our plans," he said. "They're starting the harvest early." Jia-yun studied the ship formations on the screen. She recognized the pattern from her years of watching Duhan plan battles. "No," she said firmly. "This isn't the harvest. This is revenge. Duhan is angry that his servants dared to rebel." The command center filled with noise as reports came in from across the city. The alien ships were destroying buildings and causing panic. People ran through the streets trying to find shelter. "We're not ready," someone said. "We needed those 3 days to prepare." "We're ready enough," Jia-yun replied. She turned to address everyone in the room. "Duhan thinks he knows everything about us. He thinks we're still weak and scared. That's his mistake." Hyunwoo nodded. "Give the order," he told Jia-yun. "This is your plan. We trust you." Jai-yun took a deep breath and pressed the emergency broadcast button. Her voice would reach all resistance fighters across Korea. This is Jai-yun. The aliens have returned early, but we are not afraid. Remember your training. Remember that we are strongest together. Begin Operation Rainfall. Across Seoul, hidden resistance weapons powered up. They were designed to create artificial rain clouds, using the aliens' weakness against them. Soon, dark clouds filled the sky above the alien ships. In the streets, resistance fighters emerged from hiding. Many were former servants who now fought to protect their city. They wore special suits that Jai-yun had helped design, made to work in the rain. Du-han's ship is landing, Ma Young reported. He's coming to the old mansion, just like you said he would. Jai-yun picked up her weapon. He's proud. He wants to prove he can defeat us in the same place where he once ruled us. She looked at Hyunwoo. It's time. They moved through the city carefully, leading a team of fighters. The rain fell harder now, making the alien ship's lights flicker and their weapons malfunction. Jai-yun saw fear on the faces of the alien soldiers for the first time. When they reached the mansion, Du-han was waiting in the grand hall. He looked exactly the same, perfect and cold, but now Jai-yun saw him differently. She saw his arrogance and his weakness. "My faithful servant," Du-han said, his voice still smooth as honey. "Have you come back to beg forgiveness?" Jai-yun stepped forward, standing tall. The rain poured outside, and she could hear the sounds of battle across the city. "I'm not your servant anymore," she said clearly. "And I'm not here to beg. I'm here to show you how strong humans really are." Du-han's perfect face showed anger for the first time. Behind him, more alien soldiers appeared, their weapons ready. But Jai-yun wasn't afraid. She had Hyunwoo and her fellow fighters beside her. She had the strength of all the humans who refused to be slaves. The final battle was about to begin. Lightning flashed outside the mansion windows as Jai-yun faced Du-han. The rain grew stronger, making the alien soldiers' weapons spark and malfunction. But Du-han didn't look worried. He raised his hand, and a blue energy shield appeared around him. "Your rain cannot harm me," he said. "I have prepared for every possibility. Humans are so predictable." Jai-yun smiled slightly. "You never really knew us at all," she replied. She pressed a button on her weapon, and suddenly all the lights in the mansion went out. In the darkness, Du-han's shield glowed brightly, making him an easy target. The resistance fighters moved quickly, using the fighting techniques Jai-yun had taught them. They knew how to move silently, just as they had done as servants. "Impossible," Du-han shouted as his soldiers fell one by one. "You were nothing but servants." "We were never nothing," Jai-yun said from the darkness. "We were watching, learning, growing stronger." Above them, through the mansion's broken roof, they could see the alien ships failing in the heavy rain. Resistance fighters across Seoul were winning their battles. The aliens had never expected humans to use their weakness against them so effectively. Du-han's shield flickered as the mansion's backup power systems failed. Jai-yun had memorized every detail of the building's systems during her years of cleaning and maintaining them. She knew exactly when the shield would fall. "You took everything from us," Jai-yun said, moving closer. "Our freedom, our dignity, our hope. But you forgot one thing. You forgot that we were human." The shield disappeared. Du-han's perfect face showed fear for the first time. He reached for a weapon, but Hyunwoo was faster. The resistance leader fired a special pulse that disrupted Du-han's alien form. Du-han's human appearance began to fade, revealing his true alien form. He tried to teleport away, just as he had done months ago. But this time, Jai-yun was ready. She activated a device that blocked his escape. "No more running," she said. "No more abandoning others to save yourself." The former servant stepped forward and fired her weapon. The blast hit Du-han directly. His alien form shimmered and then collapsed. turning into dust that scattered across the mansion's marble floors. Outside, the remaining alien ships were retreating. The Resistance's victory spread across the city as the rain continued to fall. Humans were cheering in the streets, celebrating their freedom. Ma Young's voice came through their communicators. The other alien overlords are running away. Seoul is free. Jai Yun looked around the mansion's grand hall. This place had once been her prison. Now it was where humans had won their freedom. Hyun Woo walked over and put his hand on her shoulder. "What do we do now?" he asked softly. Jai Yun thought about all the other humans still enslaved around the world, about all the people who needed to learn that they were strong, that they deserved to be free. "Now we help others," she said. "We show everyone that humans aren't meant to be slaves, that we're meant to stand together, to be free together." The sun began to rise over Seoul, its light shining through the rain clouds. Jai Yun walked out of the mansion, leaving her past behind. Ahead of her lay a new dawn, a new world where humans would never bow to alien masters again. She was no longer a servant. She was a leader, and her story would give hope to others who were still waiting to break their chains.